New Generation Man by Shegun Bash. Yeah, welcome to another exciting episode of our podcast. And today we're going to be having, a conversational style and of just talking. So today I have my very good friend that will always be sticking with me. Thank you so much for your support, Victor. So today, before he goes on and introducing himself, I just want to introduce the topic. And today we'll be talking about leadership, most especially visionary leadership. Speaking about how leadership has impacted us as individuals and how having a good leader and having a visionary leader, in general, is always good for the country, a company, or different aspects of life. So we'll just start having conversation about what leadership is, visionary leadership, and how it can impact or have a good influence on a company, on a country, or an individual. So without further delay, so Victor, go ahead, reintroduce yourself and tell us what your thoughts on leadership are.
Thank you very much, Shegun Bashar. My name is Victor Asami, and I'm excited to be here again with my friend. And I really look forward to this conversation, especially this topic, because it affects all of us in different ways, right? So, just to give a quick introduction about myself, I'm a business analyst, a cybersecurity professional, and a project manager. So, that's who I am professionally or career wise. On the other hand, I think I'm just a very concerned Nigerian, and I am. I believe that there is still hope for the future. Just that we don't know how it's going to happen, but we're hopeful that something's going to, change in the near future. So, yeah, that's it for now.
Okay, that's it for now. Okay, there's something that
Yeah.
they said that made me laugh. You say concerned Nigerian.
hmm
Okay, well, I hear you. Okay, but let's jump right into the conversation. So now we're talking about leadership. So for me, what leadership is a leader is someone that takes responsibility. A leader is someone that sees in the future and takes proactive steps in making sure that that future is secure for the people he's leading. So for me, that's what I think a leader is. A leader is someone that will see beforehand and say, "Oh, this is what's going to happen operationally," and make certain changes and decisions that will affect maybe the company, the family, or any person or people or organization that is managing. So for me, that's who I think a leader is. And throughout the course of my work in school, church ministry, even at work, I've been in a lot of leadership positions. So I think, yeah, I can speak, a lot to what leadership entails and, sometimes the pressure that you can face as a leader and how what you say and what you do goes a lot, in portraying,
Yeah.
your stance. And again, having the ability to be able to defend your team irrespective is what I've actually learned. So for me, leadership is more about being accountable and being able to see into the future and make sound decisions that kind of affect the people you are leading positively. So to me, that's what leadership is. So tell me, what are your own thoughts on that?
I think we should try as much as possible not to lump things up, because the leadership is, yeah, I know that it can be generalized. You can have a sort of overarching definition of leadership, but I think it's
Mhm.
very important that we contextualize it as well. For
Yeah, that's
example, as
true.
a father, you should have, there should be a particular leadership style that works for you. As a husband, there should be a leadership style that works for you. As a CEO or as a leader in a corporate world, in a business setting, I think
Mhm.
it's a different context. As a leader in politics, it's a different context. As a leader in the church, I think it's also a different context, right? So,
Yes,
yeah,
very
it will
different.
be helpful if we can contextualize our conversation
Yeah, our
around the
conversation
topic of
on
leadership.
leadership.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So
okay.
we can
So
take it
for
one after
because
the other, if that's okay
yeah,
with you.
okay, I think I like that, and I want us to take the conversation about leadership from the standpoint of professional, and from
Okay.
professional we can move, to different aspects because professional is the one I can mostly relate with because that's the
Okay.
one I do on my day to day,
Okay.
and I've had a lot of experiences regarding that. So we'll start off with leadership in the professional setting. So leadership in a professional setting, for that one, it really speaks about you being accountable. It really speaks about knowing what's going on in your team. And if any question or concern is being raised about what you're handling, you should be able to answer and identify. So for me, over the years, I've learned to like be responsible for whatever section of the team I'm in charge of, and most
Okay.
especially when I was working at Quick Delivery. Quick Delivery is a logistics company. I actually had to literally learn to not to throw your team members under the bus. Always stand by them. Even if
Yeah.
maybe they made a mistake. Do you understand? You should always defend what they did. That, oh, okay, it's the team that made the mistake, not this person. Don't just point fingers, because in the end you are the one in charge of the team, and if one person makes a mistake, it's the whole team. Yes, I will still correct it internally and say, you shouldn't have done that. You should have said it this way, said this
Absolutely.
way. Do you understand? But at that time, I had to actually learn that you need to take charge. Then another thing I also learned then in leadership was that as a leader, you know, once a problem comes, you must know the one that is above your pay grade. That's also another thing. That Yeah, because there was an incident where something happened, I didn't spot it properly, then the issue now escalated. Later, I did actually address it, but it was kind of too late because the people that were not supposed to hear about the incident happened heard.
Yeah.
And so my boss was like, "Oh, I thought you were experienced in this. You should have known that this is how to handle that." Yes, I did handle it the way I should, but it was a little too late. So, as good as leadership is, it's actually something very sensitive. And, nobody is actually, how will I even say, is anybody really born a leader? I would say no, because we
No.
learn it as you grow. Do you
Absolutely.
understand?
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
skill. It's a
exactly.
skill. Yeah, it's a skill. And I think there are leadership schools, there are leadership master classes, there are
Yes.
leadership courses, so definitely it's something that's taught. And also just to take it from where you stopped, I think it's very important for us to understand the role of a leader, or the
Mhm.
essence of leadership.
Okay.
Because I think it's very important, because the way we human beings are, we're being of hierarchy, of society, of
Yeah.
congregation, right? And
Yeah.
as much as we are like that, we find ourselves looking up to someone to show us, how to go, where to move, to take charge of that, to be the head of the pack. As
Mhm.
social beings, I think that's just one of the ways that we're wired. So it's really a position of responsibility. It's not a
Mhm.
position where you prove that you're better or you're bigger than everybody, and that's why it's very important to identify the difference between a leader and a boss. A leader is an enabler. A leader gives you opportunity. They give you,
Mhm.
they lead by example. First of all, they show you how it's done. They trust you. They invest in you, and they allow you to flourish. Unlike a boss who would
Flourish, exactly.
micromanage you, unlike a boss who would take the glory for all your work, unlike a boss who is going to talk down on you, unlike a boss who doesn't really care about your welfare or your well-being. But a
Mhm.
leader, on the other hand, they're more interested in how you can become more productive. They're more
Mhm.
interested in your personal development. They're more interested in how to tap into your strengths, and how to
Mhm.
help you walk around your weaknesses. So
Mhm.
it's more like I said earlier, it's a responsibility, and to whom much is given, much more is required. So
It's
I think
required.
we have to look at leadership from the
Mhm.
point of view of servanthood, right? Or
Mm.
from the point of view of a follower. And just like for those of us who are Christians, just like Jesus Christ said, for you to be a leader, you must first be a servant. If you're not
Mm.
ready to serve, then you cannot lead.
Yeah, I don't need
Unlike a
leader.
boss, they're not interested in serving anybody other than themselves.
That
So
themselves.
yeah, I'm really happy that we're talking about the difference between a leader and a boss. Unfortunately, in the corporate world, we've got lots and lots of bosses and less leaders. But I hope
Yes.
moving forward, we'll see a change in that dimension.
Dynamic. Okay, that's interesting. But fortunately for me, I would say I've had good leadership, throughout the course of my own career. Just a few places where I would say,
Okay.
the leadership, structure was not really okay. But in the end, when I looked at what I did in retrospect, okay, I did realize that I was the problem. Because sometimes you'll be thinking that, oh, this guy is not serious, all that and all that. So there were
Yeah.
situations where I now got into leadership positions. Then I now understood why those people were actually making those decisions. Because
Mm.
life teaches you, experience teaches you. So in retrospect, I now looked at it and now known that okay, I was actually the problem, it wasn't them. Because they were saying things from an operational point of view. Because
Yeah.
as a leader also, sometimes they may be privy to top management information which you may not be about. And maybe as a staff, you just want what you want salary increase, you want more days off, you want and no, it doesn't really work like that because they kind of like
Absolutely. Yeah.
understand what the business objectives and goals
Yeah.
are.
They
And
work
they
more on
know
a
that
strategic level.
exactly a strategic level, and they know that you taking those number of days off or you not being available will impact the overall bottom, line and what they want to
Okay.
achieve. They don't really like hate you or they don't want to like they don't it's not as if they don't want to take the day off. But as a leader in code, they need to look at the bigger picture of how some of these your little activities is affecting the overall goal. And to be honest, in my current role, I have to deal with that a lot because sometimes some of the people I supervise may come to complain to me that, oh, I'm having issues with that. I might not be available for so time. But I have to say, look, I understand and I empathize with you. However, there is an overall goal of what you are trying to achieve. And this your inconsistencies, knowingly and unknowingly, is affecting what you need to do. Do you
Yeah.
understand? So having that calmness to be able to explain that to them in a very calm way and still empathize, with their situation is something that I've learned. And also very, recently, what I learned is that as a leader, you must learn to also apologize when you are wrong.
Mm.
because
Yeah. Because it's only
yes, because
bosses who don't think they
yes,
can be wrong. Leaders
it
know
can be wrong.
anybody can make mistakes. Leaders know that to
Yeah,
err is human, right?
man.
So
Yes,
they definitely would own up to it and take
yes.
the lesson. So
The
that's
lessons,
absolutely
yeah.
what a leader should
That
do.
is exactly because there was a time like that. That was when I was in quick delivery. I sent an email to my boss that, oh, please look into this and that, and all that. So when she checked it, she was like, I know that this email was wrong, that I shouldn't have sent this. And I was like, I was actually very sure that the request was correct. And she was not even chastising me that, oh, I sent the wrong thing. So later, another colleague now said, no, actually, Shegun is actually right, and that the email he actually sent was correct. I was already vexed in that. Basically, they do this woman. I said correct thing, call it a mistake. Do you understand? But when she now realized that, I was actually right. Do
Yeah,
you
she was
understand? And
wrong. Yeah.
she was wrong, and she chastised me in error, and it was publicly. Do you understand? She also apologized publicly immediately. Do you understand? And
Mm.
immediately the respect I just had for her just went up like here because some people, some leaders will just try to divert, not want to really like say apologize publicly, try to call you to the
Mhm.
corner. But no, she didn't do that. She just felt that okay, one way or the other, I've made this person feel bad based on something that was incorrect, and she addressed it immediately.
As
So
a matter of fact,
yes, go ahead.
yeah, come to think of it, why do some people fail
Mhm.
in their position as leaders? Because I see a lot of people who are in the position of power or in the position of a leader, but to a large extent, they don't really realize it. They think it's an opportunity for them to get selfish. They think it's an opportunity for them to manipulate people.
Mhm.
I need to ask you, have you seen that
Okay,
kind of
let me.
scenario? Maybe not experienced it, but
Yes, I
are
have.
you
And
aware of it?
yeah, Yes, and let me tell you why that happens. I think they always let their pride get in the way. Okay, because there's a very thin line between your pride and you acknowledging your faults, because that's what even also happened to me today. In my team, I kind of manage, the leave structure and make sure that okay, everything goes on well. And someone reached out to me and said, oh my god, I didn't get the leave data that I requested for and all that. And what happened is she didn't send the information in the requested format, and as a result of that, it was skipped. Do you understand that kind of thing? So first of all, I was defensive. I was like, "What? You were the one that didn't do the right thing. So what's my business?" So, but I just had to change my disposition. I'm like, no. First of all, this person is upset that he was supposed to get something and then he didn't get. So you giving the disposition that is his or her fault is
It
going
won't
to
really
just make the
help.
person feel it
Yeah,
wouldn't
it
really
won't
help.
help.
So I was just like, okay, exactly. So I was more of okay, let's see what we can do. Is there someone you could exchange with? Is that date
Yeah,
important to you? Can I make it up to you the following month? So, and we had a conversation and it was resolved. So my point is that even when something happens, your reaction to the situation is actually very, key. And that's what I've learned over time. But that sometimes it's not really about the issue, it's how the leader responds. That will determine
yeah.
how things will kind of like go. So
That's
yeah.
true. That's true. To just to add to that,
So
yeah,
that's
just to
true.
add to that
So
before we
that
go on.
go ahead.
Yeah, so it's really important for us to understand that we can't really control what other people would do. We can't really control other people's reaction. We can't really
Exactly.
control what happens, but we can control how we respond, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So as a leader,
Yeah, that's true.
you have to be very careful and considerate. When you're in a situation that's not so palatable, or when things are not going the way you want them to go,
Mm-hmm.
you have to first acknowledge that it's
Mm-hmm.
beyond your control. But then you have to think of what is within your control. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
main things that's within your control is how you react, is how you respond.
Good response.
And that just buttresses your point that
Exactly. Exactly.
if sometimes things might be outside of your control, but how do you respond? How do you react? Especially when you know that your response, your reaction is going to affect
Mm-hmm.
not just one person, two people, three people, other people, that work for you, that report to you. So it's very important that as a leader, you have that mindset of my response actually affects people. It could affect them psychologically,
Okay.
mentally, financially, economically,
Mm-hmm.
name it. Because the position of
Mm.
leadership is a position of power. But as much as it's a position of power, it's also a position of it's also a position to serve.
Serve
It's
exactly.
it's a very intricate and yeah, it shouldn't be treated with levity. That's just what I'm well the
Okay,
point I'm
that's what I
driving
say.
at.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know what, right, make before we round up, I would like it if that's not putting you on the spot too much. If you can give a personal example, because I've given up a few on the call
Okay.
here. So can you give a personal example of a leadership style you've received or a leadership style that you've given out, and how you reacted or how the person reacted, changed the situation or shaped, your experience about leadership? Because giving examples will kind of like help us to drive down our points about leadership. So is there any personal experience that you have had that you'd like to share?
Absolutely. So I'm going to combine leadership with organizational culture, right? So when I
Okay.
when I was working in the Netherlands, I realized that the
Mm-hmm.
company I was working with, they have a flat not hierarchical, a flat organizational structure, right? Where
Structure. Okay.
yeah, where you pretty much have to come up with your own job description. you
Mm.
know, you just
That's
you're
interesting.
just made aware because it was a senior role, right? So you're just made
Senior
aware
role. Okay.
of the strategic objectives of the department. So it
The
is left
department.
for you to come up with ways that you're going to contribute towards the organization, the departmental objective. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah,
you have your position, you have your basic roles and responsibility. But outside of that, you're expected to come up with, it's more like you have to have your own personal roadmap of how you can contribute
achieve
towards
the goal.
developmental objectives. So that's it. For me, that was a new leadership style. And because it was an agile team, you needed to come up with your own stories, your own epics, your own stories, add it to the Jira dashboard, and then you have to present, to give regular updates of what you've done so far, of what issue you're encountering, what challenges, and what you've achieved, right? So I'll describe that leadership style as, they let you do your thing, whatever way you want to do it, but just make sure that you're giving regular updates and contributing towards the departmental strategy, the objectives, and I think that really helped me a lot in the sense that it transferred the responsibility from my manager, from my supervisor. It transfers it to me, so it made me more, what's the word I'm looking for now? It made me more responsible. Right? Yeah,
for your aspect of the project.
During my appraisal, I wasn't appraised based on what somebody asked me to do. I wasn't appraised based on what, I asked you to do this, you didn't do it. No, it was a target that I set for myself. It was objective, sub-objectives that I set for myself that I made sure keyed into the overall departmental objective. So that's for me, and that's something that I'm currently using in my role. What I learned in that previous role, now I'm using it whenever I'm delegating tasks to junior business analysts. I make sure that it's not me dumping tasks on them. It's a matter of, because that's why I like our agile methodology or agile approach so much. It lets people work at their own pace. It lets people see the bigger picture, and that's one thing I really appreciate about good leadership. I was going to say that there's good leadership and there's bad leadership. We should recognize that, right? And that's what I appreciate about good leadership. It's sharing the vision. Sow the seed of that vision into the minds of your team members, and then they run with it. Other than you hiding the vision, which was my experience while I was working within the UN. It was the managers, the officers, they didn't want anybody to know anything. We didn't know how the budget worked. We didn't know how the WBS, how it's being used. We didn't know anything. And it affected our productivity. We weren't that productive because we only did what we were told to do. So you can compare that with my experience in the Netherlands, where it was my show. All I just needed to make sure of was I wasn't working in silos. I wasn't working in isolation. Whatever plans and objectives I come up with, I show to my manager. We deliberate on it. It gives me feedback. I go back, readjust my plans, readjust my objectives. He approves it, and that's it. I go for it. So that's the same leadership style, and I'm adopting right now within my team. Okay.
Yeah, I like to. That's a very interesting leadership style. I don't think I've worked anywhere that I've seen that
adopted that same style.
Yeah, but it's actually
first time too.
Yeah. It's actually very creative, because as a leader, also your job is to don't do the thinking for them. That's actually the truth. So enable them to do their job and create an enabling environment. And I like what you said, that when you came up with the concept and how you were going to get your job done, your manager still looked at it and advised you on how it can be done better. Because in the end, as a leader, if you bring up a KPI that say, okay, I want to measure my matrix of my job this way, and if he sees that matrix that are using to measure your job is not sustainable, or it will be difficult for you to communicate with other team members, he will let you know. and say, oh, it will be better for you to do it this way. And that way, knowledge and skill is actually being passed instead of just imposing and saying, oh, these are your KPIs. Make sure that you meet into this particular, set of ways of doing things. So that was actually very brilliant. Thank you so much for actually sharing that, experience that you had. So now, so in wrapping up now, so we've talked a lot about leadership, the different styles of leadership we've experienced in our careers professionally. And I think this is an interesting conversation. So what we can do is that we'll wrap this up here right now. Thank you so much, guys, for subscribing to the New Generation Man podcast. And this is the video on the leadership in the corporate world. So we'll be doing another video where we talk about leadership in the family. There we'll dive into different aspects of leadership in the family, and we'll have more conversation. Thank you so much, Victor, for the time, for making out the time again. And we hope we'll be able to do this soon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Please like and subscribe and share the video. Thanks.